Good morning. My name is Jay Rosenthal, and I'm Managing Director of Business of Cannabis. Welcome back to Cannabis Daily for Monday, January 10th. It's the beginning of a new week, so let's get to it. If this is your first time with us, welcome. If not, welcome back. And if you like what you see, you can check out the rest of our channel and watch our full Business of Cannabis archive right here on YouTube. And like all YouTube channels, I'm obligated to ask you to smash the subscribe button to follow all that we do at Business of Cannabis right here on YouTube. For those of you that are new to Business of Cannabis since 2017, we've highlighted the companies, brands, people, and trends driving the cannabis industry. And that's what we look to do here every day. First, we'll run down the key stories we're following, and then we'll go to a cannabis conversation with our BofC Live segment. Today's BofC Live conversation, we're joined by Chris Walsh. Chris is the CEO of Marijuana Business Daily, MJBiz. Last week, a major deal was announced that saw MJBiz acquired for $120 million US. We wanted to have Chris on to discuss the acquisition, what it means for cannabis news, and for cannabis events overall. So stick around a moment for that. We'd love to hear from you in the comments, and always feel free to visit us at businessofcannabis.com as well as through all of our social channels on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. For today's stories, Tantalus Labs shows how transparency is done. California's cannabis industry is being crushed with red tape. Quebec cannabis businesses takes on anti-vaxxers. Denmark's Tetra Farm secures €2 million in funding. Before we take a look at that first story, if you didn't hear, on Friday, we'll be headed to Miami for a new series. In April, Business of Cannabis Miami. We'll be diving deep into the technology, design, and data of cannabis retail. We'd love for you to join us in April, so check out the links in the description for more information. For our first story, Building in the Open with Tantalus Dan Sutton. Dan Sutton, founder and CEO of BC-based Tantalus Labs, outlined how his premium cannabis company grew revenue by 270% since May and 83% quarter over quarter from Q3 in a detailed Twitter thread. After a rough year, which included some disappointing low THC harvests, the company decided to overhaul their product selection. Their plans as it stands right now, a quote-unquote top-down overhaul of non-THC metrics, terpenes, moisture, flavor, and smoke, finishing protocols, and a plan to move to glass packaging. They solicited feedback from their network to inform their choices and deliver new products in Q4 like Pacific OG and LA Kush Cake. This is a story about a team taking a good hard look at what they can do better, excite customers with every SKU. That's what Sutton wrote. It can be scary to return to first principles and analyze, refine, dial in, and ship better quality offerings. That hard work takes time, and the investment pays. Transparency is often lacking from cultivators and brands, so Sutton is lifting the veil on what they're doing at Tantalus. And join us in a few weeks' time. Sutton will be with us on BofC Live in the coming weeks to share more, so stay tuned. In our second story, red tape is choking California's cannabis market. Overly complicated bureaucratic processes are being blamed for burdening California's regulated market, preventing it from flourishing or shrinking the illicit market. That's according to Politico. Some of the issues cited are complicated local regulations and the additional requirement to also have a state license, understaffed departments, slow communication, red tape and legal battles, and high taxes. Some entrepreneurs are leasing properties for lengthy periods before licensed to open, costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars. And limited numbers of licenses in some municipalities have created a wave of lawsuits from hopeful store operators. So we will continue to keep an eye on what's happening in California. Before our next story, every week we highlight a job of the week from our partners at Cannabis at Work. And this week we are highlighting a position in Vancouver, BC. Cannabis at Work is recruiting for a licensing specialist in Vancouver. If this sounds like you, we encourage you to get in touch with the team from Cannabis at Work at cannabisatwork.com as well. If you need to hire people for your growing cannabis business, we encourage you to connect with Cannabis at Work. For our third story, Quebec cannabis stores demand customers get vaccinated. Starting January 18th, Quebec's provincial cannabis and alcohol stores will demand customers have proof of vaccination before entering. This, according to Bloomberg. The province is known for having some of the most restrictive COVID-19 regulations, implementing measures like a 10 p.m. curfew and closing restaurants. The goal is to limit contact and protect unvaccinated residents, which is about 1/5 of all the residents of Quebec, and 50% of those in the ICU last month in Quebec were unvaccinated. The quote from the health minister I hope it will be an additional incentive for some to go get their first dose. Unfortunately, we need to protect them from themselves and protect our healthcare network. And just a note on this story, 6,000 people registered for their vaccination, which is about, I think, a 2 or 3-fold than normal once this was announced. Some are criticizing the plan, saying it would just instead drive people to the illicit cannabis market. For our final story, Tetra Farm secures €2 million in funding. Denmark's Tetra Farm has raised €2 million in its first round, which was led by Leafy Tunnel and Annexus, reports Business Can. They're located in the life science-focused Medicon Valley, close to Copenhagen. The company plans to launch medical cannabis clinical trials, and expand operations. Those are the stories we're watching today. Join 10,000 others and catch all these stories and more in your inbox every day at 7 a.m. with our Cannabis Daily newsletter. Coming up next on our BofC Live segment, a conversation with Chris Walsh. He is the CEO of MJBiz. Last week, MJBiz made cannabis news by announcing they were acquired by Emerald X, which is part of the large event and media conglomerate Emerald. We wanted to connect with Walsh to talk about that acquisition, what it means for cannabis news, what it means for cannabis events, and actually what it means for all of us, and if we will see each other in Las Vegas this fall. Here is the conversation with Chris Walsh of MJBiz. Chris Walsh, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Well, sometimes the news is the news, and this last week was one of those cases. First thing one morning, I saw MJBiz gets acquired. Tell us what that means, what it doesn't mean. It must be exciting times around your offices, remote or otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been building this for almost 11 years as of May. It would be 11 years. That's a long time. That's like 50 years in cannabis, as you know. Right. So it's been a labor of love. It's been a slog at times. It's been exciting. And, to find a company that's around 10 or 11 years without going through something like this is rare these days. Yeah. But, I think the time was right. We are looking to take the next step as a company, and you can only do so much, right, on your own. And that's what we're seeing play out across the industry. So what it does for us is basically gives us a deeper bench. We've got insights and guidance we didn't have before. We're now being folded into this larger company, Emerald, publicly traded mainstream company coming in and just determining that they feel comfortable enough getting into cannabis, even though we don't touch it, right? And that this is a major pillar of how they're trying to grow going forward. And I think that says a lot about where we are as an industry right now. We're seeing mergers and acquisitions left and right. Every week there's another big one, right? And now we're part of that. But I think, there's a couple ways to look at it. And some people say, oh, this is the big corporate America coming in, and I don't like this. It's the outsiders. I understand those feelings. If you do this right, though, it's really good because we're going to have this expertise in basically doing what we do better, right? And that's what we're here to do, is help the industry in different ways. And that's what we continue to plan to do. So they're bringing our whole team on. The two co-founders are moving to the side, stepping back from the business, Anna Cassandra, after the transition. But I'm staying with the company in my current role. Our whole leadership, our whole sales staff, our whole journalist team, everyone is moving over because we know cannabis, right? So I'd have a much different feeling with the acquisitions you see where some company comes in, they really don't know the industry, they let everyone go, and they say, we can do this. That's not good for the industry, but I think this one is.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I am of the mind that you are. I think that this is really an important step in the normalization of cannabis as a pillar industry in America and around the world, that a company like Emerald says, this is one of the pillars we want to dive deep on, and we're going to go get the biggest and the best and acquire you guys. I wonder from a, Joe attendee, right? The average attendee at MJBizCon, for example, will they notice a difference? Will they, if they don't know this acquisition happened, will they notice a difference, or will you notice a difference because of sort of the manpower behind it, sort of being more and bigger?
The hope and the expectation is that if there are any differences, people notice they're good, they're positive, right? We're not scaling back. We're not overhauling MJBizCon. We're not doubling prices. We're not doing a lot of the things that people might expect. basically they like what they bought, right? They say, you guys are doing a good job, and we want to continue doing that and enhance it, but not get our fingers all messy in it and ruin what you guys have created. So, as we plan for MJBizCon, I think for people attending, it's going to feel largely the same. But I don't mean that in a boring way, like it's the same old, same old. We are going to look in ways that we can do things better, right? Whether that's adding on things that are of more value, whether it's networking, better connecting people, maybe going deeper into certain niche areas in the industry, adding on things, whatever it is, that's what we're going to work with them to do. Not only at this MJBizCon, but going forward. So yeah, no, it's business as usual in that sense, with the expectation that we're going to make this more valuable for people.
There's a funny note. I was looking at the Emerald's website to understand sort of their business and your business, and one of the verticals that they are big in, maybe the biggest, is pizza. I was joking that if you do the MJBiz with the Pizza Expo either end of the Vegas Convention Center, there'd be a lot of nice overlap there.
You great minds think alike, because I actually brought that up to them too this week, and I said, hey, maybe we co-locate these shows. Imagine that. But all jokes aside, yeah, they're in, the pizza business is a massive business, right? We all eat pizza, and you go down to the grocery store aisle and there's a million of them. But that's what they do in these other, industries, that same type of thing, bringing business people together. And that's one of they tell me that's a really fun show, and everyone in the company wants to go to it. I think cannabis might usurp them in terms of, what's the more exciting show and where do people want to go. But
I was joking with some of that exact joke, but then I was thinking about, there are lots of pizza shops, and they are varied within them. There are lots of inputs to pizza that you don't naturally think about. There's lots of specialized equipment. It actually had me thinking about the parallels between the two sectors in ways that I actually hadn't thought before. I mean, it started as a joke, but there actually may be parallels.
Packaging, equipment, yeah, all a lot of the same things you'd need here. Ingredients, marketing.
Can I ask you a question that did come up sort of in the Twitter sphere? I saw Deborah Borchat from Green Market Report ask a question about sort of the news component of MJBiz. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of respond to that outside of Twitter as well, but talk a little bit about sort of how you see that going forward as well, because I know that's one of the things that caught interest on Twitter as it relates, not that Twitter is a big deal, but how it will impact sort of the news division as well.
I'm glad you brought it up, because it surprised me that that's where we got a lot of questions. And I think it's great, because it shows that people do value what we're doing with content, and that our journalism focus and objectivity and analysis, and that they want that to stay. I think that's a nice reinforcement of what we've built and what we've tried to do for 10 years. And yeah, it's a valid question. I mean, we got it from our own staff, right? They're like, are we going to be doing fluff pieces or, and the answer is no. I mean, they have said publicly, Emerald, that they highly value our content backbone, and that they're hoping that we can actually help them and other divisions do what we do for the cannabis industry, because they see the value that it provides to an industry and connects with an event. So, no, they are really impressed with what we do on that end and want us to continue doing it. And that's my background. I helped create the whole content strategy and how we were going to do this thing over the years. And I came from journalism. So it's really close to me. We're on the same page with Emerald about the value of this. So valid questions, absolutely. But we don't plan to change that.
Good. Thinking about the back half of this year, are people gearing up with excitement for MJBiz 2022?
Yeah, I mean, our work begins right even before the previous year's event. So, but then starts kicking into gear. So, everything that we're hearing so far is excitement for a more normalized world back then for events. And so, our exhibitors are lining up and beginning to select their space and putting down deposits. Huge interest there. We're hoping the international element comes back after the difficulties of last year's on that end. And then, we're putting together our content and a bigger picture strategy for this. So yeah, I mean, I think people are excited, and we're ready to roll, and hopefully the coronavirus, we won't have an Omicron or whatever
Whatever the next Greek letter is.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
We're going to end the Greek letters at Omicron, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's stop it there.
That's right. Well, thank you for making time. Congratulations to you, the team. It's good to talk to good people doing good things that have had great success. So congratulations to you and the team. We'll connect with you down the road, if not in Vegas at the end of the year.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being on, and be on the lookout for more M&A activity across the board this year. It's gonna be a big year for that.
It's gonna be wild, and you guys have been covering that really well. So kudos on that front too. Thanks, Chris. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
That was episode 6 of Cannabis Daily. Thank you for joining us here on YouTube. Please do subscribe and follow all that we do at businessofcannabis.com. We will see you all tomorrow.